Hello and welcome to today's review of the Echelon EX5s. Now I'm going to say something, and I want you to hear me out before you actually assume what I'm trying to get to. But you know the saying, a poor man's something? Well, the Echelon is a poor man's Peloton. But is that a good thing or a bad thing? The Peloton is an amazing bike with a fantastic platform. So being compared to that isn't necessarily a bad thing. So let's dig in, break down the Echelon, and by the end of this, circle back to my poor man's Peloton statement and see if that is a good thing or a bad thing. So the first thing you're going to have to do is assemble this thing. And I'm going to tell you, it's really not that bad. But much like a lot of bikes, you attach the stabilizer bars at the bottom, you insert a few things, you attach the pedals, attach the monitor. Pretty simple, not too many steps, and nothing was overwhelming, and I got through it pretty quickly. I would say just about anybody could probably assemble this with ease. Moving on to resistance, which I was very happy with. I thought it did a great job. The feedback is really good, the quality is good, the overall ride feel is good. It has a pretty good range going from very easy riding to very hard. I will say that I noticed that the ramp up is a little slow, so there's a lot of range there where it's still pretty easy to ride and you don't even get to that flat road sensation for a while. But once you do, it ramps up from there and you have a lot of room to play with and get different resistances. Top end resistance, meaning where it just is incredibly hard to spin, is maybe the smallest notch below some of the other top tier options, but I'm talking a very small amount. So if you're in that 1% that just want it to push you to the max, then maybe other options might be better. But for 99% of the people, this is going to be great. It's balanced, it still has great top end resistance, has a lot of room to play with and a lot of different resistance levels. Very good, very happy with it, good to go. As far as design goes, it has a minimalist design to it, which I love. It doesn't have anything more going on than it needs to. All the lines are clean, the colors are red on black, has some thin design here, the flywheel looks neat, the attached monitor is thin, which I really like. It's not overly boxy or sticks out too much. And all in all, it is just a nice, clean design, which I am a big fan of. I got nothing bad to say. Moving on to fit and adjustability, I think Echelon did a very good job. This thing is four-way adjustable like a lot of bikes out there. So you're able to move this whole section here forward and backwards as well as up and down. The seat can go forward and backwards as well as up and down as well. So you can really work at tweaking it to fit how you want it to fit. But what I found is that there is a lot of room. Some of the units, maybe this is angled, this post here that you sit on is angled forward a little bit more, so naturally you're already pushed in and there's not as much room to push the monitor away. And at 6'3", I have plenty of room to work with, and I really, really like that. And sometimes you feel like your knee's gonna hit almost every time it comes around. And even though it's not, it doesn't feel good to know that you're that close and you just kind of feel like you're not safe or like something might happen. And with this, I have plenty of room. It is not an issue in the slightest. So 6'3" guy, no issues. I'm gonna assume most people are gonna be just fine on this. And I hope you're finding this video helpful. And if you are, toss me a like. I'd really, really appreciate it. When it comes to the screen and audio quality, it's really hard to mess it up these days because just about every screen manufactured is gonna be really good quality by today's standards. And Echelon did just fine. The colors are good, it's crisp, everything looks really nice. The studio feel, the scenic rides, everything looks really good. I was very happy with it. Nothing to complain about there either. As far as audio goes, pretty much the standard answer. They're integrated tablet speakers. They're only gonna be able to do so much, but for the average ride, they're just fine, and I thought they did a great job. No complaints there either. You're gonna be happy. And while I think the sound quality is gonna be more than enough for most people, if you decide you just wanna amp it up a little bit more, I did test my headphones on it, hooked up through Bluetooth, worked great. I also tested the heart rate monitor with a Scosche. Works great as well. Turned it on, connected right away and started showing my heart rate. Easy to set up and worked great. I think this is the 61st video I've published on this channel. And I've never done this before, but really, really quickly, I have created a second YouTube channel about learning how to create YouTube content. A little passion of mine and something I enjoy teaching. So if that's something you've ever considered, check out the link below, watch some videos, hit the subscribe button. Now I'll get back to the real content you're here for, but thank you for hearing me out. When it comes to the pedals, I think they did a very good job because it comes with both clip-ins and cages. So if you're gonna get real serious about this and you wanna buy your clip-in shoes, you can do that and be able to pedal and know you're really attached to the bike. But if anybody wants to casually use it around the house, they can still get in the cages and just use regular tennis shoes. So everybody is covered and can use it very easily. When it comes to build quality, I was actually very impressed. The frame is solid and seems very well built. The number of things that have to connect is minimal, and the things that do connect to each other seem very snug, don't have a lot of play, which makes you feel like it's built to last. And nothing when I was testing this indicated that it would break easily. So all in all, it seems like a very well built machine. As far as the UI, I thought it was really good. You're able to navigate through the screen really well, scroll through different options, find things, make selections. One thing I really liked was the filtering. You're able to bring up a whole page worth of filtering options, make your selections, and at the bottom it will tell you how many classes are available based on your filtering. So that was really neat. But all in all, the UI is easy to learn. Anybody can jump right in, get to what they want to get to. No problems there. When it comes to the content available, it's okay. For the studio rides, you do have a lot of instructors to choose from, so that's a good thing. So hopefully you can find someone that you really relate to. But all in all, it's just not quite as good as other options. You still get that motivational feel. You get someone pushing you. You're probably going to work out harder than you would if you were just on your own. So it's still good, and it's not a bad thing. But compared to others, it's a little bland. It's just not quite as polished. It doesn't have that higher end feel. It's just not quite as evolved as some of the other options out there. Still a solid option, but I wouldn't say it's the best. When it comes to the scenic rides, it's basically the same tone. They're nice, there are a lot of options, they are pretty to look at, but they're not interactive and they don't really do much. It's just something to look at while you ride on your own. Personally, if it were me, I'd rather watch a YouTube video or do something educational while I'm on the bike if I'm going to be doing that. So something to look at, but really nothing overly special. And if you plan to use the bike for more than just spinning, they do have a Fit Pass section where you can see yoga, stretching, strength training, and other options like that. So that's another thing that's available with the Echelon. And if you're wondering, yes, they do have live rides at certain times of the day. So here's the part where I circle around, talk about the Echelon being the poor man's Peloton. And what I was prepared to say was that the Echelon is everything the Peloton is, just a slight notch lower. Everything about it is almost a mirror of the Peloton. The way it's built, the build quality, the tablet, the way the UI is built, the content that's available, everything is a mirror of the Peloton, just a slight notch down. And that is not a bad thing because the Peloton sets a very high ceiling. It is an excellent bike. And if the Echelon makes you go down a step, but you save $800, well, that might be worth it for a lot of people. Knowing that you're saving a lot of money and keeping a lot of money in your pocket for only taking a slight step down, that's not necessarily a bad decision. But then I started having problems. And to be clear, leading up to this video, when I started recording this, I'd done all my testing, making sure I had the information I needed. I had thoroughly tested the product and then I was prepared on what I wanted to say. And the bike had worked great. So I was prepared to say a lot of good things about it. But then as I was testing, I started connecting the devices and making sure the heart rate monitor and the headphones worked, which they did. They plugged up, they worked great. I thought I was good to go. And then suddenly things just went south. As I was working in the UI, I would make a selection and it would kick me back to the login screen and make me start all over, which was not how it was supposed to act. And it kept doing this over and over. Then the bike itself disconnected. And this is something that makes me have a lot of concern. Now on the Peloton, there is a cable that goes from the bike up to the tablet. So when it needs to feed information about like what cadence you're at, what resistance you're at, that goes through a cable. The only thing that can break is that cable. With the Echelon, they use Bluetooth. So there's a wireless connection from the bike to the tablet that has to stay synced and relay information. And there's a lot of layers that can break here. Software updates that can break things that can just go south. And that seems to be what happened in my case because the two got disconnected and it would not reconnect. Long story short, I went through a lot of different things with support, tried a lot of different things, and none of them fixed it. And eventually they told me it's going to be a couple days and they'll have an engineer get back to me. Well, because they taught me how to get into some of the special screens, I kept playing and I ended up getting it to work. But it wasn't easy, and this leads me to something else I noticed. When I was doing some of my research, I noticed that the Amazon reviews for this product were terrible, talking about how the software was a mess and that it had all sorts of issues and it just crashed a lot and just a lot of problems you don't want to hear. But those were from January, February, I believe, when the product was still selling on Amazon. And when I had all the good results, I assumed everything had been resolved. It was a software issue, maybe they launched a product too fast, and it was now fixed. But when I started having all these issues, it made me realize that maybe this is still having some issues, and we got to be a little bit more careful. And on top of that, to be perfectly honest, the fact that they don't use a wired connection between the bike and the tablet does scare me. There's just another layer of things there that can happen, problems that can occur, and that's a techie guy talking from me. I work in computers for a living, so I kind of know these things, and it just spooks me a little bit. Doesn't mean they can't fix it, doesn't mean it can't end up being a great product, but what I'm trying to tell you is just do some homework, do some research. With the Peloton, I can tell you all day, buy it. I've had it for multiple years. It's great. I've never had issues. But with this, I can tell you that I've already had a lot of issues. I've only owned it for long enough to do a review or do a full test of it. And that's spooky. Now, what might happen is over time, they fix all these issues and it's great. It's a great bike because from a bike perspective itself and how it rides and the quality and the resistance and the flywheel and all those things, I was very happy with it. And I hope they resolve these because I think it could be a great solution. But I am spooked. So what I'm telling you is do your homework. Before you buy this, try to go find reviews. See what you can do to see what other people are experiencing. And just make sure that they've kind of got these issues resolved before you buy it. Because if they're still having all these issues, you may have more problems than it's worth. And I hate to say that because I want to say good things about this bike, but I tell it like it is. I am truthful with you, and I am not here to sell you anything. I am here to give you information so you can make the best decision for you. Now, I'm not done testing this because one of my future videos is a Peloton versus the Norditrek S22i versus this Echelon. And I'm hoping this thing is a contender. Maybe my issues were a one-off. It's not a big deal. I continue to test this and it goes fine. So stay tuned, hit that subscribe button so you know when that video comes out, and hopefully I'll have some more updated information about this bike, or at least my experience from that time forward. But I hope you found this helpful. If it did, hit that like button for me. Huge assist. You know I appreciate it. And until next time, here's to a healthier you, and have a good one.